In 2008, BlackBerry was worth $83 billion. They had 50 million users carrying their devices in their pockets. Presidents, CEOs, celebrities, heads of state. They controlled nearly half of the entire US smartphone market. They were, without question, the most powerful mobile company on the planet. And in just 5 years, they lost it all. Here's how. The story of BlackBerry isn't just a business failure. It's a warning. Because the mistakes they made, the arrogance, the blind spots, the refusal to believe the ground was shifting beneath them, companies are still making those exact same mistakes today. This isn't a story about a bad product. BlackBerry made incredible products. This is a story about what happens when you're so good at what you do, you become incapable of imagining what comes next. BlackBerry was born in 1984 in Waterloo, Canada, when a young engineer named Mike Lazaridis founded a company called Research in Motion. The vision was simple but powerful: wireless data communication. Not calls, not games, data. Information pushed to your hand instantly. By 1999, they launched their first true BlackBerry device, a two-way pager that could send and receive email. In 1999, let that sink in. Wall Street went absolutely feral for it. By the mid-2000s, BlackBerry wasn't just a phone, it was a status symbol. It was so addictive, people literally called it the crackberry. There were 12-step jokes, think pieces, congressional hearings about whether staffers were too dependent on them. By 2007, they had 10 million subscribers and growing. They were the Google of mobile, the default, the standard, the answer to what phone do you use for work. Everyone thought they were untouchable, but they had one fatal blind spot.
January 9th, 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage and said, "We're going to make a little history together today." When Mike Lazaridis and co-CEO Jim Balsillie watched the iPhone keynote, their reported reaction was essentially this: that thing can't do email properly. The battery will die. It can't handle enterprise security. Our customers need physical keyboards. And you know what? They weren't wrong. Technically. The first iPhone had real limitations. It couldn't copy and paste. It had no app store. It didn't support corporate email out of the box. But here's what BlackBerry completely missed. Jobs wasn't selling a tool. He was selling a new idea of what a phone could be. BlackBerry was optimizing for the enterprise buyer, the IT manager, the CFO. Apple was seducing the person. While RIM spent the next 3 years reassuring investors that the iPhone was a niche consumer toy, Apple opened the App Store in 2008 and handed developers the keys to the kingdom. Looking back, this is so obvious, but at the time, BlackBerry genuinely believed consumer preference would never override corporate procurement decisions. They were wrong. Catastrophically wrong. By 2010, Android had arrived. The smartphone war had two giants now, and neither of them was BlackBerry. A catastrophic 4-day global BlackBerry outage. Millions of users couldn't send messages, couldn't get email. The trust cracked. Their long-promised next-generation operating system, BB10, was delayed. Again. BB10 finally launched. The reviews were decent. The market share? Already gone. By 2014, BlackBerry held less than 1% of the global smartphone market. From 50% to less than 1% in 5 years. The stock, which had peaked at $148 a share in 2008, had collapsed to under $10. Tens of thousands of employees lost their jobs. A campus that once buzzed with engineering energy went quiet. By 2016, BlackBerry officially stopped making phones. The device that presidents wouldn't leave their desk without was dead. Here's the lesson. BlackBerry didn't fail because they made a bad product. They failed because they defined their product too narrowly.
They saw a keyboard and an email client. Apple saw a computer in your pocket. When disruption comes, it rarely looks like a direct attack. It looks like a toy, a gimmick, something your customers don't technically need yet. The companies winning right now, sitting on top of their industries, feeling untouchable, they should be losing sleep over the thing that seems too consumer, too early, too rough around the edges to be a real threat. Because that is exactly what the iPhone looked like in 2007. Which companies today are making the BlackBerry mistake right now? I have a list, and it might surprise you. Subscribe to Ghosts of the Dark Era, because every week we autopsy another tech giant that had it all and watched it vanish. The next one, you definitely still use their product today. Subscribe. You don't want to miss it.